Welcome back. I got Final Fantasy so hard. I got Final Fantasy in a ridiculous way. We are still in Infinite Wealth. We've not quite finished. We've got one more chapter to go, I think, which will be a weekend angle. Because, of course, our Halloween event starts on Monday, and I'm recording this on a Friday when it's FF14 Day Live Letter, new player tour that I'm doing, and drama time and all those things. So that is the plan. But my God, did I get FF'd hard. You see, here's the thing. You now have two completely separate teams. Unlike the single-player Final Fantasies, which did this to me several times, you have access to all your characters all the time, and you generally roll with your favorite ones. There are definitely loads of you out there, I know, like, well, I should keep the whole team up to date and things like that. And I know what's coming because it did it in 4 and 6 and 8, I think, and 10. 10 actually did it really well. Is that you end up with one team that is very, very strong, has several more levels and power, and the other team that's kind of got left behind a little bit. And I said yesterday that this game is Kiryu's game, and I only just dawned on me actually on the loading screen. It actually shows both of them back to back, and I prefer Kiryu's team much more. Like, their gameplay is better, their world that they inhabit is better in my opinion. It's less cumbersome, it's more free flowing, and there's lots of things to do. And I've spent more time doing stuff with them since we got to Japan than I have with Ichiban's team, especially because a lot of the latter chapters of the game are based with Kiryu's team. So I did that, which meant they were rolling around level 51-ish, something like that, a little variance, but around level 51. And then eventually the story flipped back to Hawaii. To Ichiban's team, who were level 36. I was like, oh no. I have a lot of very good gear that I could strip off the Japan team. I really wish they would have done some sort of loadout system. There's an optimized gear thing, but in a lot of ways it won't pull gear off other players, other characters, and give it to them. So you do have this like weird moment every time the story flip-flops where you're like, okay, now I need to like swap all the gear around. It's only a couple of minutes of stuff, but it's a little frustrating. And two, I was like, I don't know what we're going to do here because we are way under level the story. And we need to do some stuff. So, game plan kicked in. I'll get to the story in a second. Is go and do a dungeon with them. The tier 2 dungeon, not high enough to do the tier 3. Get some experience in there. Maybe pick up a few newer items to go with them and just generally gain a bit of experience. Not really a grind. Do content while, hiding the grind, which I always prefer. So we went and did the dungeon. And then we did a couple of the side quests that were nearby and then got on with what we want to do. Now, the story, oh my God, it has just finally got Yakuza. I've been missing this. I've been really missing this. It's finally got Yakuza going. And there's a lot here that's happened. It was time to draft in the Yakuza Avengers. That's generally what's going on. We need to draft in the Yakuza Avengers because VTubers are back in Japan. Achan has absolutely just AI'd Chitose's voice and is still making videos under the Tataru channel to bring down the Yakuza and start the Great Second Disillusion, etc. So we go back to Hawaii. No, I'm getting this mixed up. Kiryu decides the only way we're going to actually kick ass and take some names is to reform the Yakuza Avengers, which means we need to go and get like Goro and things like that. We need to go and get all the squad, but we don't know where they are. All the previous stars of the game. I'm terrible with the names. It's Goro Majima and then Daigo someone and the guy who's always in the big duffel coat. These are the big heavy hitters from the previous games. We need to find them. But we don't know where they are. And so we ask around a little bit and we find out that they're like off in the coast somewhere, hiding out essentially. So we take this long ass trip to find them, and we do find them. And they have now like retired from society essentially and are choosing to live as fishermen in this snowy wasteland coast of Japan, in a shack. They're just like held up in a shack, just hanging out together. And basically their point of view is their world is gone, right? The world they knew, they understood, the world that they thrived in is now gone. And this is where they belong. Their legend lives on in the memories of the Yakuza, but now their time is over and they're going to just sort of like disappear into the ether, so to speak. And now, ultimately, of course, this ends in violence, because Kiryu like tells them, I've got cancer, I've got all these things. But ultimately it ends in violence to reawaken the hearts of the Yakuza, right? That's the point. This is the best fight in the game so far. I loved this. I thought this was so well put together. Not only was it very cinematic, but the idea that you can't just treat it like a normal fight. They won't... Once you beat one of them, because you want to focus one down. So like Goro's got like massive evasion, so he's going last. And you start... I did Daigo first. And when they get down to 1 HP, they don't disappear. What they'll do in their next turn is activate a Mega Dragon mode and go into like a desperation move. Which was great. I was like, this is fantastic. It's so good. Because there's a lot of emotion going on there, because they know Kiryu's dying, and they're like, we know what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. And ultimately, you, of course, defeat them, where they still don't join. They're like, there's no point in dying this way. And Kiryu says, I still have my honor, and I still have work to do. And leaves them there. So they're obviously going to come back later on. They're obviously coming back later on. And then it turns out that the truck driver was a spy all along and has filmed them all together, which then appears on the VTuber channel to try and bring, to say that this like scary criminal mob is coming together. And by the time you get back to Ijincho, the public's seen this and they're like, oh no, it's Kiryu and he's going to start like wrecking everything. Yakuza out, blah, 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 blah. So then we flip back to Hawaii, where the hunt is on to get Lani back, and resolve the situation and escape with Akane and Lani. It got Yakuza. I mean, the highlight of all this, as you're trying to escape, and you find out that practically every civilian on the island of Hawaii is actually like the Haku, the main soldiers of the Joko clan, of the cult, and are like committing suicide and stuff. They're like, they've got suicide pills, all sorts of stuff. You're just fighting your way through all of Hawaii constantly, is that you discover their Jungi-han returns. I want us to take a pause here because this was really strange. First of all, I was very annoyed, again, that we're like one chapter from the end of the game and they bring in yet another character. Like, Jungi-han shows up. I knew it was going to be him. My reaction was just, God, no. Why? Why at this point? Because we've just had... Zhao return towards the late end of the game, and now with like one chapter left, they're giving you Jungi-han. And I'm like, no, dude, like, not happening. And I was making it very clear, like, I don't care that he's here. He's not taking part in this at this point. There is no way I am like leveling jobs on him and doing his bonds and all that stuff so he actually takes part in the fights. No, we're near the end of the game. I'm not doing it. I don't even like him anyway. Like, that's the main point. I don't even like this guy. I'm not excited he's back. He's so monotone and serious all the time. It's like, that's not why I'm playing it. Weirdly enough, someone pointed out to me that apparently he was not supposed to be part of the game, and then very late in development they decided to add him back in. Because skipping over the story bit with him, he rejoins, he says he's part of the party and you can have him as part of your team, and then he leaves again within like 30 minutes and he's gone. I've no doubt he's going to return at some point and be maybe a post-game playable character. But it's so shoehorned in to have him arrive. He absolutely MacGuffin stuff. He's like, okay, you've been looking for all this stuff. I've been doing my job. This is exactly where they are. So he turns up, tells you exactly where to go. He Urianja's the whole situation. Just rocks up, solves the problem, leaves. I'm like, what's the point? And it's like, I think it was because he's a fan favorite character. They just decided to bring him back in temporarily. Sure. I mean, he does appear earlier in the game very briefly, but now he's here and then he's gone again. It's a very weird thing that happened. I was like, why did they do this? It's so weird. Either way, the main story is we're trying to escape. We find Lani. We get Lani back by fighting Dwight. I'm so glad Danny Trejo returned, because Danny Trejo's appearance in the game is a little like, oh, there's Danny Trejo, and then he's gone again. You meet him for a couple of minutes, you fight him, and then he's gone for the entire rest of the game. So he makes his return now, triumphantly, in order to fight you at this secret harbor where they're going to be smuggling Lani to the island, the nuclear island. And you catch up with them and beat the crap out of him. It's a good fight, and then rescue Lani. And then you regroup with Yamai, and he's got a tugboat that will take us out to open waters where the Japanese Coast Guard will pick us up. and take us back to Japan where it should be safer. I'm not into this plan. It makes no sense to me because clearly there's links exactly where we're going in Japan, to Jincho or I forget the name of the other place, Kamurocho. That's completely outside of our control, and there's clans everywhere, so it doesn't feel like it should be safer, but that's the plan. We're going to take them there. This then has Dwight return again, which was great. I was like, oh, Danny Trejo's back, and he's chasing us on speedboats on this tugboat. And it turns into a fight where the mechanic is, if you push people to the back of the boat, sharks will eat them. I was like, this is Yakuza. This is what it's about. It's so stupid. Like, giant mega sharks are jumping on the boat while you're fighting it. And then someone just said, let's just give context to what's happening here. You've got a maid. You've got a maid and Danny Trejo on a boat in the middle of the ocean with giant sharks fighting you at the same time. I'm like, this is great. This is brilliant. This is exactly what I've been looking for a long time. This is really what's landing for me so well. And ultimately, is the payoff here is so good, is that you win the fight, and Danny Trejo gets on a boat, and he's like, I'm off to Switzerland, and that's where Bryce won't find me, and he's like sailing off, and then your mind just goes, wait, he's wearing too much bling. He's got too much necklace and shine on, and that attracts sharks, apparently. And then you just see the distance, just this, like, silhouette in the moonlight of a shark just swallow his whole boat. That's it. It's so understated. You expected, like, some massive cutscenes. Like, nope, it just goes, omp. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. Which leads to a couple of the plot twists. Let's talk about the plot twists. These happen in different order than what I've told you now. We arrive back in Japan, where Yumai has contacted Date from Kiryu's past and has admitted he's handing himself in for the murder of his Tojo clan boss years and years and years ago, like decades ago, in exchange for safe passage to Japan from the Coast Guard. And you're like, why? Are they trying to make Yumai like the most honorable person ever? What is going on here? And he's like, I'm here to admit for my crimes, and then just runs away. That's it. He doesn't do anything special at all. He just runs away. Weird twisty moment of like, oh, why is Yumai doing this? And you're having those questions, and he just runs away. He's like, nah, I'm out of here, scarpers. And then gets away with it. It totally works. Which is where Ichiban's story is now, because we're all back in Japan. We've all left Hawaii. Everybody's back in Japan now. Which means we are going to get the meet up again of Psycho and Ichi at some point. But we're all back in Japan, and Ichi's mission is to find Yumai and have him turn himself in, so there's not a manhunt for him. I'm not really sure why this is our concern at all. Something to do with he wouldn't want a manhunt or whatever, or to be hiding out. Sure. But that's our mission there. For Kiryu's mission, the discovery is made that Ebona, which is just the most preposterous crap ever. And again, very Yakuza. Ebona, the leader who's helping mastermind all this nuclear extraction from Japan and all this stuff, is actually Ichiban's half-brother. I was like, what? How has this happened? They're of the same age, and they're both Arakawa's children. Now, for those of you who don't follow the story as intently as I may have, this now means that Arakawa, the patriarch, had 2 children and raised a third accidentally and didn't raise his own. That's really, really unfortunate. Of the 2 children he had, he raised a third wrong one instead. And the others got raised in different ways. To add this way. And it's all culminated in Ebina saying, we are renaming the Seiyu clan. We're no longer Yakuza. We are now Bleach Japan. Bleach Japan is back in full force, which is hilarious. There's so much hypocrisy going on, which is very reminiscent of real life at the moment. Where the Tataru channel is like, we're going to... these dangerous Yakuza are coming together, right? With Kiryu and the Avengers. They're all coming together. This is terrifying. The people are in trouble while interviewing a current Yakuza clan and taking their word for it as the bastion of honesty. And this is all the hypocrisy and the preposterousness that you expect from the game. And it's just there is a bit of a shame here that this doesn't really start getting going till the last sort of 3 chapters of the game into the level of absurdity you expect to be happening, like scattered throughout the game. It happens here, but it is fantastic. So no complaints. We'll be finishing up the story the next day or so to find the culmination. I'll summarize it here because it will be a weekend angle probably, which means a lot of our normal audience might not catch it. But I've got to say, I really wish at this point they'd have been a bit more liberal with this stuff earlier on, to just be like, because those moments where you're like, wait, what? It's kind of the thriving point. And I've talked about being grounded, and people were right. It gets absurd towards the end. It does, and it's a lot more fun. It's a lot more fun. And I missed it earlier on. Gameplay is fantastic. I don't not recommend the game by any means, but I can see a lot of people's maybe mixed opinions on it. All right, I'll leave it there. And the next video will probably be the finale, and then hopefully we'll jump into some Sujimon and finish the island off and see how that goes. But I'll see you again. Bye, everybody.